I want to start by talking about Ed Henry, because if you don't know who Ed Henry is, he's an ex-Fox News anchor, reporter. He's been all over Fox News for years, and he's had some issues with women in the past. Went through a divorce because he fell in love with a stripper in Las Vegas. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. But people want to talk about cancel culture, but they don't. Many people don't want to talk about what has taken place at Fox News, starting with Roger Ailes for years. And this news story that just came out involves rape involving Ed Henry. And it also involves sexual harassment with Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Howard Kurtz, and more. These are disgusting details. But you won't hear about this story on right-wing radio. You certainly won't hear about this story on Fox News. But we are going to cover it, and we are going to talk about it. And if this story came out on CNN, and if a hypothetical came out that Don Lemon allegedly raped somebody, we would cover it on this show because it's news and because it's important. That's why. It just so happens that this, again, deals with Fox News. And you know how to talk about cancel culture. How about rape culture? Do I have to talk about Bill O'Reilly, that scumbag, who, by the way, is still as a guest on the Sean Hannity show? Give me a break. Anyway, this woman is a former Fox News producer. Her name is Jennifer Eckhart. She alleged that Henry raped and assaulted her and performed sadistic acts on her without her consent that left her injured, bruised, and battered with bloody wrists. According to the complaint, which was filed in court, she's alleging that Henry, who is married, groomed, psychologically manipulated, and coerced her into sexual relationship, which he referred to as his sex slave. Additionally, the lawsuit said when she would not comply voluntarily, Henry sexually assaulted her on office property and raped her at a hotel where Fox News frequently lodged its visiting employees. In fact, after one meeting, she says, at a hotel, that he wanted to discuss her career prospects. She said that she recalled relenting to Henry's advances, fearing that her career would be over if she refused Mr. Henry. And we hear this from a lot of other women, and I believe them. By the way, there's also text messages to prove this weird relationship and this awful relationships they had. Months later, she claims Henry forced her to perform disturbing sexual acts on him. She recalls on one occasion he told her to remove her underwear and deliver it to him in an envelope. Who does that? What a weirdo this guy is. Yeah, I want you to take your underwear off, put it in an envelope, and deliver it to me. Boy, that sounds very normal. Sounds like a really good dude. Boy, it's a really, that sounds like something Bill O'Reilly would do. But, boy, I would never go as far as to say Ed Henry would do something like this. Just unbelievable. According to this lawsuit, Henry's treatment of Eckhart became increasingly more violent. On one occasion, she recalls Henry violently raped her while she was handcuffed only after he took nude photos of her without her consent. Lawyers also provided a complaint and a series of text messages, which I just spoke about, which Henry referred to their relationship in graphic terms. F you and your safe word, he wrote in one message. You will know when I'm done. When you are owned, you don't get a choice. Good long session last night, he wrote just after 10 a.m. in another series of texts. Left you bruised, battered, dazed, begging for more. This is Fox News anchor, former Fox News anchor, Ed Henry. Meanwhile, there's another journalist out there, and a very good one at that. Her name is Cathy Areu. She's made plenty of appearances on Fox News. She was a frequent on-air guest on many shows. She alleges in a lawsuit that in early 2020, Henry sent her a slew of wildly inappropriate sexual images and messages which are in her possession. She has them. She has the proof. This story is not made up. This isn't about cancel culture. There's a reason why Fox News fired this guy. According to the lawsuit, the messages in Areu's possession from Henry include a close-up photograph of a woman's vagina being clamped closed by 4 clothespins, a photograph of an individual wearing a mask with a large member in lieu of a nose, many other things that I can't even talk about on the radio. That's how disgusting they are. It's unbelievable to me. But it's not just Ed Henry we're talking about here. Guess what? Other names of people that you watch on a regular basis. That's right. The lawsuit alleges Areu was also subjected to inappropriate sexual harassment and retaliation by on-air Fox News personalities Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Howard Kurtz, and more. She says during March 8th, 2018 appearance on Hannity's show, the lawsuit alleges the Prime star threw $100 on the desk. Again, now we're talking about Sean Hannity, the man who calls himself a great Christian, right? Apparently, Sean Hannity puts $100 on his desk and then began calling out to the men in the room and demanding that someone take Arayu out on a date for drinks at Del Frisco's. Well, that sounds like a really great Christian. That sounds fantastic. Boy, what a wonderful Christian would do something like that. That is so inappropriate, and it makes someone feel uncomfortable. I'm sure it made this woman feel very uncomfortable, and it is disgusting. But you know what? Sean Hannity makes Fox News a lot of money. During a December 2018 appearance when she appeared on the Tucker Carlson show. That's right, the white supremacist himself, Tucker Carlson, who, by the way, just had his top writer leave because he was a white supremacist. The host apparently demanded that Arayu stay on the set after her segment, and then, according to the lawsuit, hardly making any effort to hide his intentions, began telling Miss Arayu that he would be alone in New York City that night, and specifically said that he would be staying alone in his hotel room without any wife or kids. And then, of course, she said no, because she's a woman of character. And then she claims that Carlson promptly retaliated against Miss Arayu, who was featured on his show only 3 times in 2019 and has not appeared once in 2020. I wonder why, Tucker. Maybe because she wouldn't sleep with your white supremacist ass? Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. Geez, I don't know. This is just, where's everybody talking? Everybody on the right wants to talk about cancel culture, cancel culture. What about these poor women that have now come forward? What about these women that had to deal with this stuff? And Ed Henry. And by the way, Ed Henry had his issues before. This isn't the first time. Now he's being accused of rape. But Ed Henry has had issues before, and guess what? It's linked to Las Vegas. How? Well, a woman claims she had a 10-month affair with Fox News correspondent Ed Henry, the veteran stripper who lives here in Las Vegas, who worked at a local gentleman's club. Her name is Natalie Lima. Apparently, she performed steamy 2,000-an-hour routines for Henry in a private VIP skybox at Sapphire Las Vegas Strip Club. The pair hit it off with their encounters at the popular venue and engaged in a secret love affair at luxury hotels when the veteran newsman visited Sin City. Look, I know what some of you might be saying. Listen, this is his personal life. We're not talking about rape. He got a divorce. He fell in love with a stripper. Fine, so be it. Let me tell you something. When you're a public figure and you represent a company, whether it's Fox News, CNN, I don't care who. If you're that person and you do something like that, you are allowed to be held accountable, and we are allowed to talk about it. So that's what happened here with Ed Henry is not rape. It's certainly inappropriate. But this woman that just recently came forward, the Eckhart situation, she's claiming rape. And apparently there are text messages to back it up that he battered her. This all going on, and keep this in mind because this is very important. He had this inappropriate affair in Las Vegas with a stripper when he was married. And when Fox News learned about this, they didn't let him go, but he went on a hiatus, and then they brought him back. Because apparently that's okay. Nothing wrong with, getting lap dances, falling in love with a stripper when you're married. That's okay, according to Fox News, because they brought him back. Get your stuff together. They bring him back. And now he's accused of rape. And now this also includes Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson. And I'm going to tell you something, folks. I am not surprised. I am not surprised one bit. Many of these people in society, they like to hide behind their religion and call themselves good Christians. And sometimes it's those people that do some of the worst things. And it is awful. So we have a clip for you from Eckhart. Again, this is the woman who's claiming brutal rape by Ed Henry. And it goes on, and she claims she has text messages. She just did an interview this morning on CBS. Have a listen to this.
After we met and we had our photo taken together, he messaged me, "Wow, you are way more beautiful in person."
Jennifer Eckhart says her connection to then Fox News correspondent Ed Henry began in 2014 when she was a production assistant.
as a 24-year-old girl, when the chief White House correspondent follows you on Twitter, you get stars in your eyes.
But Eckhart says those stars quickly faded. In a lawsuit filed Monday, she accuses Henry of violently raping her in 2017 while she was helpless and restrained in metal handcuffs, and says Henry performed sadistic acts on her that left her injured, bruised, and battered with bloody wrists.
Would you characterize the relationship you were in with Ed Henry as mainly abusive?
Absolutely. Without question. I felt that he had the power to derail me, to destroy me, to ruin my career. And I didn't have a voice until now.
Yeah, you know what? I believe her. And I'm so sorry she had to go through this. I am so sorry. You can hear it in her voice. And by the way, there are text messages proving this abusive behavior by this guy, Ed Henry. It doesn't end at Fox News. Just because Roger Ailes is dead doesn't mean that it's over at Fox News and the culture. So all the executives at Fox News can make all the excuses they want. And by the way, it doesn't just include Ed Henry. It includes Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity as well. And, I might be a little graphic here. And I'll do the best I can to clean it up on the radio. But I think it's important to note what a monster this Ed Henry guy was, and probably still is. This woman claims it's just terrible. And Areu as well says that she has possession from Henry, including a close-up photograph of private parts of a woman being closed by clothespins, a photograph of an individual wearing a mask that has a large member in lieu of a nose, a photograph of a sex toy, smoking a cigarette, a photograph of a woman with her mouth open and tongue extended, a man's hands pulling her towards his midsection captioned, "In case you were wondering, the male G-spot is located at the back of a woman's throat," a photograph of a woman's rear end and other private parts modified to include the features of a bunny rabbit. This was sent for Easter. A woman wearing nothing but 3 masks in which her entire body is exposed other than a few of her private parts, and then a photograph of a rubber glove where each finger appears to be a sex object ribbed with a condom. Or like a condom, excuse me. This is disgusting stuff. This is what you would call proof. And I'll tell you what's going to happen here. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. This guy, Ed Henry, probably will not have a job for a while. I would not be surprised if OAN hired this guy. Eventually, he'll probably get a job somewhere. He should be in jail. Make no mistake about it. Ed Henry will be hitting the pocketbook, but he should be in jail. And by the way, I'm sure there's evidence to support some of these stories when it comes to Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. What do you make of that? You call yourself a really good Christian man, right? You're supposed to be a really good man. You have a nice, lovely woman appear on your show, on your TV show. And then at the end of the interview, as this woman alleges, and I believe every word, he slams, I'm talking about Sean Hannity now, he slams allegedly $100 on the table and says to all the men in the studio, somebody take her out on a date. What if that was your daughter? Forget for a second if you like Fox News. Forget for a second if you're a Republican. What if that was your daughter and you were really excited because your daughter was going to be appearing on the Sean Hannity show, or your daughter was going to be appearing on the Tucker Carlson show? What if your daughter was being treated like this? What if Tucker Carlson, hypothetically, what if Tucker Carlson propositioned your daughter and said, my wife and kids are out of town. Would you like to come to my hotel room? And what if your daughter did the right thing and said no, even though she was scared and she thought it could hurt her career? And then you learn to find out as a father that Tucker Carlson refused to have her on the show again. Does it remind you of somebody? Yeah, he's called Bill O'Reilly, another monster. Bill O'Reilly accused of assaulting the mother of his child. In fact, his child put in a police statement that, yes, father battered the mother. That's in a police statement. And all the women that Fox News had to pay off because Bill O'Reilly tried to get his rocks off. But Bill O'Reilly still appears on some of these shows, including Sean Hannity. These people still make appearances and they're still invited on other networks. But these are some of the same people that called Joe Biden a pedophile. And this isn't about the Me Too movement. Okay? This isn't about that. This is about a man, and I'm specifically right now talking about Ed Henry, who has a history. This is about a man who battered a woman. This is about a man who is accused now of rape. This is sexual assault. This isn't just sexual harassment. This is sexual assault. Stop it with your stupid Me Too movement comments. You're an idiot. Oh, Brian, this is just about the Me Too movement. You're just going after Ed Henry because he was on Fox News. F you. F you if you think that. Because if this happened on CNN or MSNBC, I would be talking about the same thing. And by the way, I did, because Don Lemon at one point was accused of sexual assault, but those charges were dropped. And last I checked, Don Lemon is doing pretty well in his career. This isn't the first time Ed Henry's done some weird stuff. But there's nothing weird about raping a woman. It's wrong and it's disgusting. And there are text messages now to prove that he physically assaulted this woman. And this other woman who has this case out as well, Arayu, has evidence as well. Some of which includes Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. I don't care. Let me be very clear in closing. I don't care what network you work for. I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Wrong is wrong, unless proved otherwise. But chances are, if you think Donald Trump treats women great, you probably don't care about one word I'm talking about right now. Donald Trump has 25 plus women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault, including his ex-wife, who in a court document accused Donald Trump of rape.